Well, I know going on the road is always a little bit of a dicey proposition, but I wonder what your anxiety level is with taking this team on the road to get the season started.
Honestly, I'm ready to go. I think from the standpoint, I'm excited to play. I'm excited for the event that we're in. So from my standpoint, I'm like jacked up, ready to roll.
Do you think the players feel the same way? Are they?
I hope so, because they're the ones playing. But no, I think they will be. I think that once again, been a lot of hard work, and this is our first opportunity to go out and see what we're made of. But like I said, I think just all the things that are that go into this game. I hope it puts them in a mind, as well as an educational opportunity for them to learn about the military, to learn about what goes on, like at the Naval Academy.
You talked after the game about some things you wanted to see fixed just from that night. But going back and looking at film, where do you kind of rate that performance, having had a season?
I thought we were okay. I think that we've got to continue to think the game of basketball, and we had some segments in the game where we weren't as sharp as we needed to be, and those are things that we're pointing out just in terms of making sure that we're doing most of the time exactly what we are set out to doing, and doing it with great pace and doing it with great execution, both offensively and defensively. I think that the one thing now that you find, and when you any level of college basketball, when a guy takes a play off defensively, it really it can be spotlight that guy. I think the same thing with offense when we're not as dialed in. We had 3 possessions in a row in that game where we didn't put a lot of pressure on the defense, and those are things that hopefully we'll be better at.
How have you seen the guys, especially the young guys, respond to film? I know that's not always something they get at the high school level. So when you get a chance to kind of break it down and show them those things, how have they responded?
They've been pretty good. The new guys have a pretty decent basketball IQ in terms of what we're showing them and why we're showing them, and then the tell-all is, do they go out and execute it? If I have to say, hey, that's what we just talked about in the film room, that's probably not a good thing, but they've been pretty good with it.
I got all kinds of things I could ask you about. First of all, you guys are going out tonight, is that correct?
Yes.
And what kind of a schedule do they have planned for you guys, sightseeing and otherwise, tomorrow?
I think we awake at 0700 hours. Tomorrow is a unique experience, and I think we bring the guys over at 9:15 maybe, and it's in essence a 2.5-hour tour of the Naval Academy, and from what I've seen, the guys will get in helicopters and they can see the gear that the Navy men wear, and as well as like a simulator of a ship and those types of things, as well as the tour of the facilities, and we eat lunch with the entire Naval Academy. Then there's a dinner tomorrow night. So I think it'll be, like I said, a great experience for these guys, just in terms to see, what their day is like in terms of being in the military at a Naval Academy.
Exhibition-wise, you always seem to play a lot of guys and maybe more minutes for everybody than maybe they'll see in the season. Just, do you feel like you're going to be able to go 10 or 11 guys deep as you did in the exhibition game and get positive contributions out of so many guys this year, and maybe, I don't know, for lack of a better term, play more players, I guess?
I think so, Steve. But by the same token, and we wanted to give those guys as much time as we possibly could, not so much concerned about the score or anything like that. The more experience we can get those guys, hopefully the better they're going to be, just in terms of making the adjustment from high school basketball into the college basketball. So, obviously how they're playing dictates a lot of that, but I thought the new guys did a pretty good job the other night.
Last thing I was going to ask about is, today being the signing day, are you at this point able to discuss the guys that you signed? Or
you know what? I think we're going to do it. We can't.
You're waiting
just
on
yet.
something? Or?
Yeah, we're waiting. Got one that's going to do it next week. So that way, 'cause we can only comment once, I think, which I don't understand, because if you ask me about it, then I talk about it. It doesn't make any sense to me, the rule. I've never understood it, but I always get it right on my test question when they make us take this test. But with that said, we'll do it next week.
Talking about depth and especially personnel, I'm just thinking of CJ's performance on Sunday. What maybe do you have personnel-wise that you didn't have at this point last year?
You know, I think that you know, everybody is a little bit older. You know, I think Micah, you know, he had a couple wide open threes, hit one. He's somebody that can kind of stretch the defense out a little bit more. I think that you know, CJ's play, I really see him as just a steady. He's going to do whatever we ask him to do, and he's going to do it with great energy. You know, I think from standpoint, Andre, you saw him down there battling for rebounds. You know, defensively picked up a couple of cheap fouls that we got to get that out of his system. But you know, Derek, I think, adds just more length. You know, he was very active defensively. So yeah, like I said, I like the new group we got right now.
Do you expect Micah to start on Friday?
I think so. You know, we got 2 more practices to go, but we'll see how that goes today, and you know, like we're competing like we always do.
I just wondered if you could give us a quick scouting report on Navy.
Well, you know, from what we've seen from last year and a little bit of this year, a very disciplined, tough basketball team. Really have got some guys that can shoot the basketball. They're going to run their stuff, and you know, very physical on cutters, and you know, Ed does knowing him from Penn State days, does a tremendous job of coaching his team. So you know, they're going to be disciplined in the half-court offense, but they will push in transition. They got open three, they'll let it go.
That Trevor started, I guess, the majority of the games at center last season, and I think he was just sort of perceived as the incumbent guy at that position. When you start a true freshman, even though it's an exhibition, are you hoping that that's maybe a wake-up call to Trevor to bring something else out of him as you head into the season?
Yeah, I mean, you hope you don't have to wake somebody up in college basketball at the beginning of the season nowadays. But I like what Mike has done, just in terms of he has been solid from day one up to this point. You know, how does it continue to go for him? I think as much as he cares, and you know, he's done a really good job. With that said, we need Trevor to play if he's starting, if he's coming off the bench, whatever it is. He's done both in his career, not only here but Virginia Tech. You know, when that opportunity comes, we need him to be ready. I don't think that you know, this will be a team that everything's set in stone. There'll be a lot of changes along the way.
Coach, on Sunday, Micah and Derek talked about how them playing at Montverde and Hargrave really helped prepare them for college basketball. Can you sense a difference between players who come from schools like that versus players who play 4 years at a typical high school?
Great question. I've thought about it, and I really can't. You know, I think so many times each kid is so different. You know, maybe a young man needs that. Maybe a young man doesn't need that. So it's just I've thought about is there a difference, and I think it's just individual cases. I can't say that it is right or is wrong.
When you talked about C.J. Jackson, you brought up how he's been solid and steady. Is that hard to find in college basketball with 18, 19-year-old guys, or?
Yeah, I don't know if it's hard to find. I think, you know, C.J. being a coach's son, C.J. was out in Montverde for a year, and he just seems to kind of get it in terms of what team basketball is all about, and you know, one of these guys that he just wants to win, and whatever he has to do that he can do, he will.
That Jay Sean said you guys have had some team conversations about if they were going to do anything for the anthem, and he said you were very supportive of whatever they wanted to do. You would, you know, have their back. What were those conversations like? I know you've talked about you like to talk about social issues with your team. What were those conversations like, and how do you feel about the team coming to the decision that it did?
You know, I just sort of asked them. I said, "Hey, what do we want to do because we got to do this together. And they immediately said, we want to stand for the national anthem. And I said, you know, it's your right to do what you want to do. And they said, no, we want to stand. And it was just sort of case closed on that because we had to get on to something else. So there wasn't an opportunity to do that. But no, whatever. But they were very, very, I mean, it took 2 seconds to decide what they were going to do.
Some of the guys have posted some things on Twitter, and I've had some reaction to the election last night. And I wonder if you talk about things like that at all. Like you said, you like to talk about social issues and things like that. Is that something? Do you address what's going on in the country with the team? Do you have any conversations like that, or do you shy away from that kind of stuff?
What election? No, I'm kidding you. You know, that's one that I don't get a whole lot into it because I hate to say it, but I'm not like real into the politics. I did watch because some buddies of mine told me to watch the things where the two candidates were in essence arguing for like an hour and a half debates, and they said it would be comical, and so I did watch 1.5 of those, and it was as comical as I've ever seen. So, but that's kind of my extent to my political views.
And slightly different topic, but going back down memory lane a little bit, it was 10 years ago that you put that team together that went to the national championship game, and I just wonder if you remember anything about the preseason that year and the excitement that team felt as it got ready to go play a game. Were you guys just dying to you played VMI in the opener, and Daquan had 22. Just wonder what you remember leading into that game, if anything.
I can remember like yesterday, like how much longer is Greg going to be out? But no, I mean, that was a team. There was, you know, some unknowns on that. I think the great thing is that, you know, some of those guys had won a Big Ten championship the year before. But there was, I was excited to see how we were going to play just in terms of all the expectations that had been placed on that team. We were down a guy. We were playing different than we were going to play when Greg got there because he wasn't in there. And but that was an exciting time. I remember Daquan had 22, and the next game, I think he had like 18. And then I called him in after the second game. I said, look, you're averaging 20 points a game. And I said, your man's averaging 22. And I'll never forget this. He said, I'll score more. And it's a true story. Yeah, it's not where I was going with that. So, but it is true. You guys good? All right.